Hello
Bryce,
and
Rodan,
welcome to
take
NA
it away.
Regional Finals. Last day, game number 4.
All right, we are halfway done with Championship Sunday. After 3 more games, we're sending 2 players from points and 1 from management placement, while the other 5 will have to be left groveling, hoping that they could have qualified for Worlds, maybe getting an LCQ spot, pending on how things shake up. Let's check in with Rainplosion, who has just been lights out this weekend. You just kind of look at Rainplosion and it just feels like no matter what the situation is, even if she's win streaking or lose streaking or mid streaking, it feels like she's in a good spot, or rather she's able to pull some reps out of her hat.
Yeah, and Mortdog definitely has her back in this tournament, it has to be said, right? That last game, she's very low on HP, which is stylistically where she's been, and she has been she got dropped an unbelievable amount of AD items. Then she gets offered double trouble on 3-2, probably the single best augment she could get there because it gives her such clear direction and capability to do that rubber band back. Maybe she could have done that anyway. There's definitely a lot of other augments she could hit, but with weak augment selections in 3-2, I think that rubber band was probably impossible from her situation. So it worked out. She gets another first. She makes 10 gold here on 1-3. Another awesome start to this game. We also haven't talked about Executioner's Edge yet. Probably most players agree this is the strongest Mirage variant. I would expect to see some Deja in this lobby.
Yeah, definitely one of them. We'll see if players like Sag can find a way to get that Deja back in. We saw Robin play Deja. We saw other people try to angle for it as well. A lot of things can be happening here as we see what happens in game number 4. Depending on the items, though, it can get a little awkward, and it looks like it is awkward. 2 vests for Rain at the moment, as well as a gold opening, so she does have a lot of money, but she only has a Bramble vest currently as a slammable item.
Yeah, her opening augment selection is very interesting. We saw Soju take that metabolic accelerator. It seemed to be going very well for him, and he winds up flaming out in the lobby in 7th place. Ascension is generically strong. She does have 2 defensive components, so theoretically that synergizes well because she can stall longer and she can get some cheap free damage on her backline without itemization. She opts in that metabolic accelerator. It looks like she's going to be leaning into her comfort zone, trading HP early for econ, for item priority, and we'll see what comeback she has up her sleeve this game.
Well, well, well. Rainplosion with another lose streak position. We'll see if anything happens for her to potentially come back. Probably does. We'll see as goes up against her first matchup. A couple people leveling, see whether or not they can contest for a streak, but Soju also has a gold opener with metabolic, although you can see the differences in the bench. Soju has 3 items and able to make 10. Rain's been making 10 for a couple of rounds now, able to hold that many more units. That being said, Soju does have better components to play around. He has bow, tier, and glove, which is actually very quietly one of the most flexible ways you can itemize early game with your damage sources. Gets a near victory, which is actually pretty ideal for Rain because she heals right back to 100.
Yeah, that's way better for Rain than it is for Soju. Both of them are playing to intentionally lose streak. They wind up playing against each other in the first fight, and it is a perfect fight for Rainplosion. Her board definitely not capable of killing 2 units against most boards. It's a perfect loss for Rain. She maintains 100 HP. It's the rare situation we actually have 5 players at 100 HP on 2-2.
Checking in with Sag, a player that coming into this weekend, it felt like pretty much Bryce Esports Law Blum was the only person who truly believed in him, as well as all of his friends in the competitive TFT Discord server. And Sag has not really put it together for a big first 3 games, just in 7th place. His AVP is in the dumps right now at 4.67 heading into today. So he's not qualifying for Worlds unless he's able to do it the hard way, which is top 2 in points. What are some of the things that are key to success for this game, Bryce?
So he's got the early tank itemization, opts into the Bramble Vest, so he's going to go Bramble Declaw instead of a Gargoyle Stone play, which I think more people in the field would do. Sag is one of the only players in the field left where Deja is the core part of his game plan. In particular, likes playing around the Guardian variation of Deja, and with these tank items early, I very much expect him to go in that direction on the Executioner Mirage, which, as we said, is one of the stronger variants. So he's going to be trying to lose streak early, hoping for an early Deja, early Itis, as we've certainly seen time and time time again throughout this field. And if he can get that going, if he can get a prep recap or get those units prepped, then he could be in a really great position. We also see in the lower right-hand corner that he has 0% of his games lost streaking at 2-7, which is really interesting. This is a guy who really prioritizes preserving HP at all costs. I think he's theoretically fine lose streaking as long as he's killing units, but he's not prioritizing lose streaking at the expense of playing a strong enough board to kill units, preserve HP, and get into those mid-game situations in which he wants to be.
Yep, that sounds about right. As right now he's still playing that Astrals opening to get that gold. Astrals have very much taken a step back from where they were at the beginning of the set, being the dominant opener. Now they're a solid opener if you have the spot for it, meaning you have 2 stars, you have the synergies, and you have a couple of items that really go well with the specific champions that you're pairing them with. As he does go up against Kyvix, having Exiles opening and able to get a convincing victory. Kyvix is just playing good boards early, and again, his boards are kind of weird. He's playing Jax, Vladimir, and Zeri, which I believe have a total of 0 trait overlap. He's just playing good boards.
Yeah, his augment might not be built differently, but this man is built differently. He is very happy to play whatever the combination of strongest units are available to him. Taking a look at the augments for the first time, we've already talked about the 2 metabolic accelerators. Goobum's the other player opting for a more econ-oriented augment in trade sector. And then we have 2 players on prep, Sag and Liquid Kurum X, Kyvix with Exiles, and then Prestivant with Beastin. We talked a lot about the options for Beastin yesterday. We'll have to see what Prestivant's start is to figure out where he might be leaning with that augment.
Yeah, kind of awkward. He has a cloak. Not really what you necessarily want, but Cloak has been slowly but surely moving its way up. As we do see, Robin has an early Xayah, but with that Zeke Slam and his setup with Lagoon, makes me feel like he wants to lean towards that Seraphine composition. So I don't anticipate that Xayah being picked up here. It's just too expensive. But just to tie in that previous point, Prestivant has Beastin, which is actually quite open-ended. One of my favorite augments to play. I love the change from set 7 to 7.5, where we have now just 1 shapeshifter required. You can pretty much do anything. What doesn't want attack speed, Bryce?
Yeah, what doesn't want attack speed? What can't fit a unit like Jace or Shyvana on the board? You can get Gnar in the action on Soyfin, so there's a lot of different options. We see a Runaan's Hurricane slammed in the lower right hand for Prestivant with that Beastin, so he's got Jade opening. He can definitely lean into Soyfin. He can still play Xayah from there. We'll have to see what he winds up hitting, because Prestivant does not play super wide in relation to the field, but he's definitely willing to play any of the outs we've talked about so far.
He has been leaning more towards Xayah, as we do see Prestivant is continuing the streak and 2-5. We might see a Robin versus Prestivant showdown at the end of Stage 2. 2 of the best Stage 2 players this tournament. Only fitting if they're able to face off. A little bit ironic that Robin has had the Xayah in the shops, like, oh, maybe Prestivant wants something like this. We'll see if either of them go to level 6. We have seen some players be very be desperate to be able to keep that win streak going, recognize that they probably can't win head-to-head, or they want better chances than 50-50.
Yeah, and he's deciding between playing this whole. He
Level
does
6!
go to 6. He does it. He does it at the last second, so Prestivant can't respond. And he does play Prestivant here. Prestivant making 30 gold. Robin making 0 gold. Will he be able to maintain the streak? It looks like he will.
Yeah.
In fact, now that I have a chance to look at this board, I feel like Robin is just playing too conservatively here. I'm pretty sure he smashes Prestivant in a head-to-head level 5 fight. He has multiple additional upgrades. I find it very hard to believe that he needed to level to 6 to win this matchup, but the mental damage that he did to Prestivant cannot be calculated.
Whoa, also the actual player damage, too.
True.
Leveling. It's funny that he's conservative. I interpret that as aggressive because he wants to pressure Prestivant and the rest of the lobby. Anyone who's facing Robin will be taking a bunch of damage. So, you know, Prestivant on the other end, it's not that big of a deal. Like you said, he has 30 gold. That's actually quite a lot for that point in the game. And I think that explains it because there's 2 metabolic players. Maybe his board was actually quite fraudulent. That's why Preston didn't push 6. He's like, heck, if I push 6, I'm still not winning. I probably have a 1% chance to get that dub.
Yeah, I mean, if he hadn't played Kyvix yet, he might have lost to Kyvix's level 5 board on level 6, right? Preston's board is omega fake in that situation. Hopping on board with K3 Soju, who after winning that first fight, against Rainplosion, has lost all 4 fights as was intended. He has strong itemization that looks to me like it might lean towards Deja, but with that Hand of Justice with the Jade opening, he can easily slam a Rage Blade and flex between what he hits in the Deja or the Soyfin line.
Yeah, I think you said Jaza. I was like, wow, is that what Jade and Deja plays?
It's like Soyfin.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the items here are also very open-ended. You know, you can make that Edge of Night and Rage Blade and Hot, which is very powerful in Volibear in particular. So I wonder if that's what he's thinking about. Also could think about, you know, Gunblade. You mentioned Executioner and Deja, how it's so popular. People still love playing a lot of Gunblade, even if it's something that's very front-loaded, like the Executioner damage. Looks like we are going to go to the Volibear Edge of Night carry, as we talked about. This is such a devastating setup. Heads up play here from Soju as well. He's not throwing in just a random unit. He's playing a second Karma because every star level of a Dragonmance will raise that Volibear that much more. And it is bear hug time, as we see all these units are focusing on Volibear, but he is trying to go in, and that AoE damage is crushing through the backline now, and doesn't seem like there's much Kerm can do.
This unit is not fair. The 3-item Volibear, even at 1-star with the Dragonmancer buff, just
That's a 5v6.
disgusting amounts of damage. It's an easy fight win there for Soju. Meanwhile, on the lower hand corner, we have a Vladimir busting up Liquid Robin's win streak, so our only remaining win streaker in this game is Kyvix at 98 HP.
Oh dear, Gobum's rolled to 0, and he has a Zippy 2 as we have a Prismatic augment at 3-2.
Okay, so we have a Prismatic augment in the hopper for all of these players. Looking at K3 Soju's spot, I think that all of these augments are roughly terrible, and I am very interested in re-rolling from this spot. Is there anything that I'm overlooking on this current slate of options? You could build different.
So, Dragonmancer Crown, if you pick it up at this juncture of the game, but it actually does have synergy with Metabolic in the form if you want to like lose streak, reroll Dragonmancers, or go fast A for Dragonmancers. The problem is I think Soju's items have been committed already. So he does choose to reroll, and now he has a choice of 1 Thieves Gloves or 2. What do you think?
I vote 2. You know, as I mentioned previously, I have learned everything I know about math from Kiyun, and I'm extremely confident in this situation.
No level.
No level. I wonder if that was on purpose or if it was just that it took him so long to make that augment decision he couldn't get it off, but he's going up against Rainplosion here, who has rolled some gold, has stabilized a Kai'Sa in the backline, maybe looking at Kai'Sa reroll as an option. She has actually 5 copies of Kai'Sa. We've seen her played a couple times this tournament. She's actually top 2'd every single time that she has played Kai'Sa reroll so far, so we could call that a comfort pick to be sure.
You know, it's a greedy play to not level. Soju could probably pitch it as an intentional decision. I don't think that's an intentional decision, but he has Metabolic Accelerator, so it's not the worst. Also, the health totals are a little bit dubious enough where it still might give him a second-round draft pick coming up on the carousel. So I think it's okay. Not a disaster for Soju, but he can't make many more plays like that.
Yeah, I agree with that situation. So Kyvix has a Guardian Emblem slammed at 3-1. Kyvix has been playing Guardians as core to his strategy. I keep waiting for other people to realize that, quite frankly, because I'm pretty sure Guardians are absolutely broken. And if you want to know why Kyvix is doing so well, a big part of it is how strongly he leans into Guardians each and every game. We're seeing a lot more of it played generically at, for example, the EMEA Regional Championships than we have been so far in the North American Regional Championships. We've got Kerm going up against Gubas, who's on a win streak with that very early Zippy 2 off of Trade Sector. And so we've got that Zippy into the back line with that Bloodthirster trying to stay alive, but it's taking a meaningful amount of damage. It's dashed onto the Kai'Sa. Is there going to be enough damage left over? It seems like the answer should be easy fight win for Gubas. He's got that dual threat combination in the Zippy, plus he's got the Varus 2 in the back line, plus CB3. So as many times as I thought this Zippy was going to die, the Bloodthirster plus the shield plus the CB3, not so much.
Yeah, and remember, the shield from the Bloodthirster healing is much higher effective HP because of the resistances gained through having Zippy on the board through the guild trait. So we take a look, a moment of reprieve here in Stage 3 Carousel. We have another person taking Bandit Thieves 2. It's Prestivan and Soju. It makes sense that they stick together. Sad with the Mystic Crown, Rainplosion with Earth's Grab Bag 2. I wonder what's cooking up over there.
I'm assuming it's a Dragonmancer emblem and that she's leaning into Kai'Sa. One thing I don't know is how well that composition plays when you have no combat augments like she does, so we'll have to see where that goes. Robin, we talked about that early Zeke slam, leaning towards Seraphine, getting one of the strongest augments he could get from that spot, the Preparation 3. Speaking of preparation, we have the Team Liquid brothers on the same line. Both of them have been playing so much Seraphine this entire tournament. It's what got them here, and they are contesting each other once again on that line, rolling past other units, very clearly committed to this line, trying to get some upgrades, trying to get units prepped as well so that he can hit his big power spike that he's going to need on the top half of stage 4.
It's the most linear that Kern's ever played a tournament. Usually he wants to be open to a bunch of different lines, but in his own words, he doesn't know what else to play that's consistent based off his core strategy. And he's executing it. I mean, heck, Milk got 3rd at Worlds playing like this. And if Kern can master this line and show you the way, he will be one of those players trying to reclaim that championship throne. But can he find a way to be more consistent in a spot where he's not able to hit that Graves 2? Last time, previously, when he was rolling this deep on 7, he already had Graves 2 by like 20 gold left. This is a game where it looks like he's struggling way more, and despite the fact that his setup is pretty good, right? He has preparation, he's got a lot of the units, he's had Lagoon rolling early. This looks like a bad position here for KermX.
Yeah, Kerm goes bot 4 from here a huge percentage of the time. He's really low on HP at 45. He doesn't have a lot of the core units that you would need. He's got a pair of Pantheons, but no Graves, like you said. That's the primary carry of this composition. The items are pretty good. The augments are pretty good, but that's as far as we can go. He's lacking the core units to put this composition together, and you were making fun of this line yesterday because of its lack of flexibility. We did see Goobums innovate by hitting an ASOL on 7 and playing around ASOL as the primary carry as opposed to Graves, but no ASOLs, no Graves, no real meaningful carry options here for Liquid's KermX.
I mean, I was memeing the flex part of it. We were labeling the graphics Seraphine Graves flex, which is amusing in itself. That's neither here nor there. The big gem activates, and with 50 gold plus for Kyvix, that is going to be huge amount of damage. Whether or not this Deja can clean it up through one Wind Blast is not able to get the job done, so not a bad loss here for KermX. But still, he wants to stop losing pretty soon. And it's this position that he's not unused to. He's actually been playing from behind quite often, but like you said, he's being contested by another person who's in danger of holding hand 7-8.
And Robin is rolling down right now, trying to get some of these units and trying to get them prepped. It's double whammy. He needs the prep stacks on them, and he also would love to be able to take them out of the pool before Kerm is rolling for them. Joining Prestivin's board on our main screen, we have a Jade line pretty clearly. This is the only real unit that he's holding and playing towards, so it seems unlikely to be Xayah from here. Some pretty good items drop in this situation. He gets a sword and a cloak, which could be BT. He's already got a Runaan's Hurricane. He could go Titans and a Siphon in the shop as well. This is going very well for Prestivin. We're not all the way to stability, but is this board strong enough to be able to get to level 8?
Yes, it is strong enough to get to level 8, but it's not strong enough to win the next 3 fights guaranteed. It's going to be a lot more like maybe he loses 2, wins 1. I think what will really shape things, pun intended, is his 4-2 augment. Can he find a way to capitalize off his current setup? Nice position to get everything except Xiaoyu is not getting the beast end value, which is a big deal.
Yeah, it's basically a Zeke's worth of value that he could be getting onto his Xiaoyu, his secondary carry in this situation. The Siphon is into the backline, onto this Varus right away. So this Siphon has been getting coached up by Prestivin on the sidelines. This is not the idiot Siphon we're used to seeing. It is doing a meaningful amount of work in this backline. The Varus is down. The Zippy is already down. It's going to be an easy fight win. First fight secured for Prestivin. And this is exactly what he needs at 62 HP. If he's able to win 1 out of the next 2 fights, or even 2 out of the next 2 fights, go all in on 4-5, hit his core upgrades, and he should be in excellent position to top 4 this game, maybe even play for the first, although that tends to be hard from the Soyfin line.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, he's going early.
He gets Ascension. He's going to 4-2 it at level 8. He might be just leveling just to play the Silas, which I think is not a bad call, because he can still make 30 gold if he sells the rest of his board, or rather his bench. Not his board, don't sell your board. Sell the rest of his bench, excuse me.
Kurum comes up with a Graves 2 out of thin air on the lower right-hand corner. You called him the Graves Whisperer last game, and he is maintaining that reputation. Meanwhile, Prestivan elects to roll some of his gold instead of making 30. He picks up a Shio pair. He opts to play the Yasuo, so he's going to have some extra CC, maybe a little bit of chip damage, instead of going for that Silas on this board, and he's going to say, this is good enough for now. I think he's really valuing trying to protect that win streak, but if Kurum is the Graves Whisperer, then Kyvix is the Deja Whisperer. It feels like every time we look at this man's board, he has an early Deja. In this case, a very early Deja 2 on 4-2, level 8, 20 gold. Kyvix once again hits the exact unit he's looking for his core strategy.
I don't know how he does it. I have no idea how he does it, but he's executing it to perfection. He has this Deja. Now, that being said, Deja seems to be taking a long time killing this Gnar too. I wonder if it's any combination of dodges or just the raw Jade HP. So Kyvix was hoping to streak throughout this stage with a large amount of gold under the big gem, not able to get it done. So we'll see what ends up happening there as Prestivan's currently on a win streak. Let's hop on board with K3 Soju, who finds an Aurelion Soul in the shop. We talk about being contested by your friends. The Team Liquid players are fighting each other for Seraphine. Soju and P-God, big and lil bro, fighting over Jade Soifin right now. Is there any room for pivot here?
You would love to be able to play around this Aurelion Soul because it's the single strongest carry in the game. He has a Hand of Justice, a Death Cap, and an Edge of Night, which is actually quite good on Aurelion Soul because if anything gets access to it, it can re-aggro and does so much damage in the late stages of the fight with those Ascended Black Holes. But with the Knife's Edge 2 selected, I feel like he's just hard committed into the standard version of this tree. His friend Prestivan has already been pulling some of these core units out of the pool. I expect Soju to take big damage here as Prestivan looks to maintain his win streak. Prestivan goes early on 4-2. Soju's going to be all-inning next turn. Will he be able to hit these contested units?
And we'll be doing it in time. You know, one thing about Soju is that he's been just a little bit slow on the gun for these things. He needs to move fast. We know he's capable of it because he doesn't have much time left as Kurum gets a very important win over Goobums, who's been taking a couple of losses here as he is also greeting. We're about to see some fireworks on 4-5. Many players will be rolling down.
Yeah, many players will be rolling down as we take a look at these last set of augments. Rainplosion grabs an Axie Mark, so she is going to have a very strong combat power augment for her theoretical Kaisa 3. We see Kurum and Robin both getting cybernetic uplink 2. Did Team Liquid PayPal Mortog? What is happening here?
I mean, maybe, but they still have to outlast a lot of the high power comps that are about to get online. This might be some of the closest HP separation we've had from top to bottom. No one's completely almost dead here at the end of stage 4. As we hop on board with Soju and see what he's able to pick up. Finds one Shio, one Siphon. So he's paired up on his dragons, but not much more gold to roll. Can he find any 2 stars or he's going to be stuck in Pair Central?
Pair Central seems to be it for the time being. Not enough time left in this round for Soju to really continue to roll. We get some last rolls, and he does get that Jax 2 in. So we've gone from 1 upgraded unit on our board to 2 upgraded units on our board, going up against Kurum, who has that upgraded Graves, the upgraded Pantheon, the upgraded Seraphine. All the core units here really online. Only 1 damage item onto this Graves, though, and no Edge of Night. So if the Siphon RNG goes Soju's way, maybe this fight, but it doesn't look like it. The Seraphine shielding, all this additional damage coming out from the entirety of Kurum's composition, which has amazing augments to complement his upgrades. So Soju takes a big loss here in this fight.
Man, I don't know how Kurum's doing it, but once again, able to conjure up Graves 2 and start that win streak from 7. As now he improves to 5th place. Soju still not able to hit either of his 2 stars for his valuable dragon. Even Jay's having 2 items. And the fact is, Soju's board is nearly all 1 star across the board. I expect him to lose the next fight. And because he doesn't have much gold left, he won't be able to, 1, roll much on Treasure Dragon. And Soju already takes Treasure Dragon quite early. And 2, that just means that he won't even be able to hit the dragons. It's not even likely to hit them because he's contested.
Yeah, and here we look at Saj's board also in the line. with a Siphon 2 and a Shio U2, so we have at least 3 Soifin players. We've talked about this before. When you get in these dragon contested lines, oftentimes there's some haves and have-nots, and Soju is in real danger of being one of the have-nots. Soju's board's actually performing quite well, even with the 2 upgraded dragons on Saj's side. The itemization from Saj is just not very strong. Most people think that you need to be itemizing on a core level or a primary level the Siphon, because it's just a much stronger, more consistent carry right now than that Shio U is. So even though Saj has the upgrades, Soju has the fight win.
Yeah, Saj is really hoping for Treasure Dragon. It's a Chaos Treasure Dragon, which means you're unlikely to get exactly what you are looking for. You have to get a little more creative.
What does Goobums want here? I kind of liked that Death Cap Morello option. We see Rain rolling in the low right-hand corner. She actually still short on Kai'Sa's, but there it is, the Kai'Sa 3, the massive hit for Rain. Goobums opts into a Dice and a Dummy. Will be interesting to see how he chooses to use this.
Shyvana!
And he didn't even use the dice. I figured that was a dice roll, but it wasn't. It was just the perfect roll. Hits the Shyvana and the Xayah 2 here. What an amazing hit for Goobums in this situation.
Yeah, and does he have the Rakan for the 6 Rage Wing? He does. And so all the pieces are in place, but he does lack a noticeable amount of frontline upgrades. How does he want to utilize his dice? Is he going to use it on some of the Rage Wing units? Does he want to use it on the Jace to try to get the 2-star Jace immediately? Also, he's playing 5 Swift Shot, by the way, purposefully leaving out Sejuani, hoping that a target dummy can do what Sejuani will help him do anyways. As he's going up against Soju, who, surprise, surprise, still stuck on a pair of his dragons and Jace.
Not where Soju wants to be in this game. Hard stuck on the 1-star version of both of his carries, going up against Goobums with the 5 Swift Shot, the upgraded Xayah. Xayah used to need Rage Blade, but as we've moved further into the set, there are some other alternatives, and one of those alternatives, if you can get all the way vertical in the Swift Shot, you get so much attack speed from that you don't really need the Rage Blade, so you can opt into this core damage-oriented build that Goobums is going to be able to get away with in this game. Hopping over and watching Kivix do some damage to Kurum. We have Kurum down at the bottom of 15 HP alongside Robin with 3 HP. They're playing this line that's theoretically strong with these augments that are theoretically good. It feels like they're hitting. What's going on for our Team Liquid Seraphine players?
I mean, they're kind of hitting, but other people were powering up for that 5-1, and everyone benefits so much from Treasure Dragon, much more than what Robin and Kurum were able to get out of it. And as a result, both of them are 7 and 8, but other people are getting stronger too. Soju hit Siphon 3, or Siphon 2 rather. Rayplosion hit Volibear 3. So a couple of really big upgrades coming in for their potential matchmaking pool.
Prestivant with that Zephyr onto the Jace has the very strong iteration with great itemization on both the Shio U and the Soifin, so it's a really dual threat composition. We saw Goobums take care of quick work against Soju, but Prestivant is Soju's father in this lobby, the much stronger iteration of the Soifin board. Siphon is dashing away from the core threat. Is it going to get cast? It does, but it does not cast on Xayah. It's Xayah versus the world. The feathers are flying. Goobums is winning. He is staying alive in this game, protecting his 2 streak. Xayah takes care of business against that Jade statue, and Prestivant takes a fight loss down to 55. Kivix, our only win streaker, up at 66.
I mean, that was everything diff, but that CB3 coming up huge, barely keeping Xayah alive. And that 5 Swift Shot really offsets that need for that Rage Blade. Great spot there from Goobums to pull himself in contention for that top 4 as we check out Soju's board once more, who has successfully hit his 2-star dragons, and that's not bad Thieves Gloves items. So we'll see if Soju can do this. He is crowding a little bit, so for example, his Pantheon and his Gnar switch plays at the last second just to juke his opponent. Hopefully gets the correct Zephyr. It's gonna go onto the Lee Sin, and
low
so
impact.
We'll see whether or not he can get through this Kai'Sa 3, but previously when we saw this Kai'Sa 3 was able to destroy
Oh my god, the Lee Sin kicked the Siphon directly into this Kai'Sa. Siphon's getting 2 dashes, 2 bites onto the Kai'Sa. It's not going to be enough, but it was a lot closer than it theoretically could have been. Liquid Robin is out at in 8th place in the situation, and we are so jam-packed at the bottom of this lobby in terms of HP. Kivix might be running away with it again, but everyone else is trying to fight for this top 4. Rainplosion, Goobums, Kurum X and Soju all between 12 and 16 HP as we head into the Stage 5 carousel.
It might come down to things like that Metabolics Accelerator for Rainplosion and Soju for extra placements here. Not to mention if players like Soju, Prismatic, and Sag hit Soraka. There's a lot that will be decided just by a couple of hit points. Pay attention to that as we enter the final phase of this game.
Yeah, and as we look, Kyvix grabs this Gargoyle Stone Plate. Kyvix with that very early version of the Deja 2. I have not gotten to see his goal, but I can assume he's going 9 yet again, so will he get the opportunity to redeem himself for some of the fumbling that happened at level 9 in the last game? Meanwhile, we join Kurum X with the pretty good version of this board. It's not terrifying, no Edge of Night on the Graves, which feels like such a pivotal item, but he does have 1 Zeeks, not 2 or 3 as we've seen in other situations, but could be a lot worse for Kurum. Opted to go with the Radiant Shroud. Is he going to be able to land that Shroud? That's big investment from him from the Treasure Dragon stage of this game. Oh, excuse me, for the Radiant.
He has Radiant Shroud, and he didn't hit a bunch of the units. The complete reposition from Goobums to avoid that down the middle. We'll see if this pays off. Seraphine and Shyvana should theoretically have a pretty good chance in this matchup, but it's whether or not Shyvana can survive long enough. Graves getting focused, no Edge of Night. The pullback from the Feathers Fly. Zyra not able to save long enough, but there's no more units to defend this Zaya. And Zaya does go down. Goobums barely living.
Barely living, and we're watching on the lower right-hand corner of our screen. It looked like Soju getting a fight win. Goobums down at 2 HP. Sag drops all the way down to 11. We've seen this story before. Sag, so much HP, felt like he might be cruising to a top 4, but is bottoming out in this game. And look how tight the HP is at the bottom of this lobby. Kyvix seems to be running away with it, but everyone from Rainplosion down is just fighting for maximum placements in this pivotal game number 4.
It's so close. Can Goobums find a way to continue to stabilize these 5 Swift shots? It's a lot of offense, not much defense whatsoever. A repositioned backline, the Swift shot units, hoping that he can get the advantage over Soju. This could be a fight for who goes 7th. Goobums needs to get the win here, otherwise it is done and dusted. The Siphon is on the wrong side, though, charging the non-Zaya unit. And on the flip side, if Soju loses very heavily, he could be eliminated as well, but a lot of units are getting cleaned up. Siphon is charging towards the Shyvana. That counts as 2 units. He didn't use his Rampage Bite. Soju is barely alive. Sag has lost. Sag is dead.
Dead yet again. Kurum also out in 6th place. That was a positioning difference. Goobums thoroughly outclasses Soju in that 1v1 situation. He has the Hecarim perfectly positioned for multiple big stuns across the team. He gets maximum space on that situation with his Zaya on the opposite corner. The Siphon was never a threat to the Zaya. The Zaya was getting tons of extra attack speed from the distance and that 5 Swift shot. It was a really nice positioning battle from Goobums to stay alive in this game.
I mean, this is where all the thinnest margins mattered. If Goobums lost by a single additional unit at any point of the first 30 minutes of this game, he would have been 8th a long time ago. But he's able to barely bring it back. On the other side, Kyvix. I mean, the Deja Whisper is back at it again. He's ready to go to 9. But more importantly, he doesn't need to rush. Just because he has the goal to go to 9 doesn't mean that he should. He has that big gem. It stacks up to 80. It gives him a big ascension of how much damage he's able to generate. And somehow, not only does he keep accumulating Dejas and Idases, he somehow keeps getting Guardian Emblems.
Yeah, Guardian Emblems. He had a dice over there. It's an embarrassment of riches for Kyvix. This is his game to lose if he can play the level 9 correctly. Meanwhile, we take a look at Goobums fighting for his turn in life against Rainplosion's Ghost. The fact that it's a Ghost could be very good. Is he going to be able to deal with this Kai'Sa 3? The Hecarim positioning is not nearly as good. The Shyvana is into the back line trying to deal with this Kai'Sa, but Kai'Sa is immediately evaporating. There's just too much threat on Rainplosion's board with the 3 stars all left alive, doing big damage to Goobums, and he is out in what is likely 5th place unless Soju is somehow losing by a lot more units. It seems like Soju's going to eke out a top 4 despite missing on the Siphon and the Shio-Yu for a meaningful period of time.
Big win for Soju, top 4, putting himself in prime position. Remember, Soju is in 3rd place in points right now, just on the outside looking in, so every point that he can get is extremely valuable, considering that Press Event, a player that's still ahead of him in 2nd, is also still alive in this game. As we take a look at Kyvix, who is next on the deck? It is Soju, and he hasn't gone to level 9 just yet. So if there's a time for Soju to play against Kyvix, now would be the case. But will he still be able to get the victory?
Yeah, will he get the victory? He actually had both Precedent and Soju in his pool, and he winds up facing Precedent in this situation that Zephyr does just barely miss onto the Siphon, so the Siphon is going to be able to stay alive, but there's just so much tankiness on this 6 Guardian vertical board. This Deja is going to be slowly but surely scaling up its damage with both the Rage Blade and the Archangel Staff. The Deja just gets scarier and scarier as this fight goes on, but the Siphon board is slowly but surely chewing its way through that front line. The Whisper is doing a lot of work against this very tanky board. Deja versus the world. Deja loses. Great fight win for Precipice. Soju out in 4th place.
Kaisa, top 3 again. Rainplosion has eliminated Soju in 4th place, putting her in that likely position to be able to keep her lead from average placement over Kyvix. Kyvix, Rainplosion, and up until this point it has been Goobones, but then there were 2 fighting for best AVP of the weekend.
Best AVP feels like a runaway at this point. The only way anyone else is going to win it, unless things go disastrously in games 5 or 6, is if Kyvix and Rainplosion both score top of points, and then, like you said, we might be in for a wild finish in that spot. We see Kyvix going up against Rainplosion, this super, super strong version. Doesn't need a bunch of combat augments, just the Axiom Arc on Rainplosion's side with the Vertical Dragon Mancer, the 3-star, Volibear pitching in some damage. This Zac is so tanky, and there's just not enough DPS, it seems like, on this board from Kyvix. It's just 2 offensive items on this Deja, and this Zac is so tanky, it's dealing with Deja for a lot longer. Here comes the damage, but the Wind Blast goes through and actually gets onto the 2 primary units. 1 final cast coming out from the Kaisa. It's not enough. The Guardian Emblem procs, and Rainplosion takes a loss here. Precedent also lost to a Ghost on the lower right-hand corner of our screen, so Kyvix down to 35 HP, but getting ready to go 9 with a lot of gold.
Rainplosion goes for Infinity Edge. She have a remover? I think she wants a little bit extra burst out of that Kaisa. We'll see. I'm not entirely sure. As Kyvix gets a Zeke's Herald, which is really strong for that Deja setup, can continue to make that Deja even more fearsome. As we do have an opportunity here to see whether or not Kyvix can improve his board. Does he even need to? He maybe want to stay at 68 gold and maximize his chances for this big gem value. What is going on over here when Rainplosion land, as we have 8 Dragon Mancers, a remover for the Infinity Edge Jewel Gauntlets. Is she going to move up?
She also has another remover, by the way, if she wants to put this Giant Slayer onto this Volibear 3. That sounds pretty nice to me. Maybe get rid of that QSS. The Zephyr from Precedent, he's been so clean on these, but that was not a high impact. The Siphon into the back line, onto the Kaisa once again, but it's not putting out the DPS. This Kaisa just does too much work in the back line. The Shio is the only damage source left for life for Precedent, but not for long. Precedent gets bodied in this fight, and Rainplosion once again is in the top 2 with Kaisa. Every single time she plays this composition, she finds her way into the top 2. Is anyone going to pay attention and maybe contest this line at some point in this tournament?
I just don't think people are prepared enough. This is actually a line that I talked about with multiple players. They said, look, I recognize that Kaisa was oversight on my behalf, but I just don't feel comfortable winging it in the tournament that matters the most this year. And Rainplosion's preparation is paid off once again. 2nd is the lowest that she's placed.
It's truly incredible that she is playing this S-tier line. She's playing it so well and so consistently on North America's biggest stage. The last time we took a look at this fight, the Deja was able to get it done, but that was before she had the Infinity Edge on the Kaisa. It was before she had the 8 Dragon Mancers online. So she has gotten a lot stronger, whereas Kyvix still has 84 gold to work with in this situation.
Kyvix ends up going for a swap away from the Zeeks, and this way he'll be focusing not on the Zac with the Dragon's Call, so that's a very good last-second swap from Kyvix. The Temper Fate does lock down the backline as the Lee Sin does end up kicking the ice, but here comes the gold, the big gem, and the Ascension. Kaisa is also going to be able to focus onto the Deja because the Itis is off in no man's land. What are you doing in the top left? End up being able to rush in just in time to absorb some of the tidal burst.
So tanky.
So tanky, so much damage, but we are going to stage 7 to determine who's going to get this victory.
Yeah, and we've seen Kyvix in the situation before, trying to decide between maximizing the value from a Shimmer Scale item at level 9 versus trying to go for some of these Omega capped out boards. It looks like he's full committed onto staying on this board, does not seem particularly interested in pivoting to other Dragon board. More generally, you see him passing Terra, passing other units. It feels like with his itemization, he doesn't have a lot of options here, which makes a lot of sense to me, but can he get that Itis 3? He's got a loaded dice over on the bench to go along with 5 copies of this Itis.
Well, the good news is that loaded dice is not too bad for us, considering a lot of Guardians are lower cost, and he's at level 9, but it is a little bit awkward because it also counts Dragons, and Dragons are very common at level 9 for the most part. So your loaded dice odds are not great. Looks like he's just going to stop here. He does have 2 lives to give. I think he can take a small/medium loss here at stage 7-1 and send it to 7-2 if he needs.
Rain was able to hit a Yasuo too, moving some items around. Actually elects to put all these tanky items onto the Lee Sin, thinks that the disruption in the front line is more valuable than keeping this Lee Sin or Yasuo alive. We'll have to see if that winds up being the correct decision because she's on 1 life in stage 7.
Well, let's see if it's enough. This could be the last fight of this match. Can Rain put it away? Kai'Sa's working on things like the target dummy while Deja is working on the non-tank units, which is excellent for Kyvix so far. Everything's looking good. Rakan does taunt, and Itis is there right now in a better position than it was previously, but once again, move to the top right. Does Kai'Sa move? Oh my god, Temper Fate able to get it done, and that should do it. Kyvix able to